It's a beast of a Chromebook, but is it any good? Let's check it out. Dave Taylor here with this beast of a Chromebook. There's no other way to describe it. It's big. This is the Acer Chromebook 317, obviously running Chrome OS. And the first thing you notice is it has this huge 17.3-inch touchscreen. It's big. Not only that, as the sticker says, it's a full 1080p HD screen, which means it's basically like having a television screen sitting there as part of your laptop. Now, this much screen real estate means that it also gets a really weird keyboard layout because you have a regular keyboard and you have number keys and all sorts of other stuff on the side. Let me give you a close-up so you can see that keyboard. Now, the computer itself is actually pretty interesting. There's a lot going on here, but you do have to calibrate your expectations because it is a Chromebook. It is at a very affordable price, and it's not intended to be doing 3D graphic rendering or doing really hardcore computer games or anything. This is really for browsing the web, watching a movie on Netflix, and maybe doing some document work in Google Docs or in Microsoft Office. You can run the Office suite on this device, but it's powered by some fairly low-powered gear. So, Intel Celeron N4500 at 1.1 gigahertz, 4 gig of RAM, and 64 gig of what's called eMMC. So it's interesting. So they're using a part of memory as a drive. So it's not a solid state drive and it's not an actual hard drive, but for all intents and purposes, you really can't tell the difference. If you put a file on it and you close it down and you start it up again, it's still there. So that works fine. But still, a PC with 4 gig and 64 gig would be pretty underpowered. So this is, again, a different sort of thing. And that 17.3-inch touchscreen is at 1920 by 1080. And let me open up. I'll show you. Let's just bring up, I guess I have a touchscreen. So we can bring up Netflix. And as you can see, there's a touchscreen. And it's just a gorgeous screen. It's this big, bright screen that is actually really fun. Imagine being on an airplane and watching a movie with this. Honestly, I'm not sure you'd fit it on your tray, but you would definitely have people around you enjoying your movie too, because it's so big. Now, on the top here, you can barely see it, there is a 720p webcam. So that's not bad. It's not a 1080p webcam, which would seem pretty logical to have an HD webcam when you have an HD computer and the screen, but that's how they chose to configure it. And 720 is okay as long as you're using it in a well-lit environment. The keyboard, one thing I will complain about is that you really have to look and orient your fingers in the exactly right place. Or I find that I often put my fingers down to start typing and then I look and I'm like, I'm off a road. That is not good. But that's just, I guess, part of what you have on a larger keyboard. So let's get a quick tour of the ports. On the left side, you can see that there's USB-C, USB-A, micro SD, and audio out. And then on the right-hand side is another USB-A, which is the rectangle, and USB-C, and there's that Kensington lock sort of hole there. So what do you notice that's missing? So here we have a system where it's all about that 1080p screen, but there's no HDMI. So I don't understand why Acer didn't include that HDMI port. That seems like such a logical thing to include. And yeah, it might have added a couple of dollars, but it would have really changed this to be able to be really a portable TV that also happens to run Chrome OS and also happens to have all of these other features. So you can imagine for traveling or something, this could be a great second computer. Now I know most people are going to give this to their kids or they're going to use it themselves as a very thin client, as they say. And that totally makes sense because this is exactly how you want to use this so that you can actually get all the benefits of a big screen without having to spend a ton of money for it. Now, I will also tell you that it is powered with 9+ hours of battery life, which is pretty remarkable. And it has Bluetooth, it has 802.11ax, which means it supports all the Wi-Fi protocols, including the very latest Wi-Fi 6. So there's a lot of great technology in here. So I wanted to also give you just a little bit of an example of a couple of things, because for one, people complain that it has poor sound, but let's give it some music. And I'm going to turn the volume up. So there's a speaker on each side of the keyboard, and I will be the first to admit there's no bass at all. There's barely mid-range. It's a very high sound wave, but as it is, I think it's entirely listenable. And if you're watching a movie or something, honestly, if you really want to get some more bass and you want to get a more rich sound, you can put a little sound bar or get a little Bluetooth speaker, and you could use that, and that would work perfectly fine. So the audio is entirely functional, though don't expect any mid-range or any bass. That's just sort of the nature of it. And then if we go to, let's say, go to Prime Video, and we can watch some old movie, and you can see the touchscreen makes it super easy. So let's see, this is a fairly dark portion, but you can see it really is like having a TV screen right here, and it is a really fun, enjoyable watch. I suppose I should give us some sound. There's the drama of this dramatic music or video from Amazon, but I don't have the rights to it, so can't do that. And let me switch back. We will escape this and close that. And then if I just go to Google and just wanted to do a quick Google search or something, you can see that the touchscreen is very responsive, and that if I got my finger in the right place, there we go. And the screen, it's just this big, beautiful screen. You might be used to an 11-inch or a 13-inch screen because that's what you have on your, affordable budget laptop. But this is a whole different ball game. It is running Chrome OS, so it's not the same experience as Windows or a Mac OS. But Chrome OS has come a long way. If you haven't looked at it in the last 6 months to a year, you might be surprised just how Windows-like it is, from the taskbar on the bottom to access to all of the controls and everything. There's a lot going on in Chrome OS that makes it a lot more of an enjoyable experience. So what we do need to talk about are a couple of the limitations. So I will tell you that it is slow. It is a slow processor, and there's not much RAM for the operating system to work with. But if you're checking your web email, if you're working on a document, if you are checking your social media accounts or something, it's entirely functional. If you have high demand tasks or programs, then you probably need a faster computer. But that's not really what this is intended for. The keyboard, I wish it was backlit. It's not, so in poor lighting, it's a little hard to especially get that initial orientation so you make sure your fingers are in the right place. A solvable problem. The audio, there's no bass. I already told you that. Just expect it. And otherwise, let me give you some dimensions. It is big. It is 9/10 of an inch thick by 15.8 by 10.5 in terms of its facial dimensions, and it's 5.2 pounds. So this is not your rich cousin's ultralight. This is a fairly hefty computer, but it is also a fairly massive screen. So there's that trade-off there. Now, I will also note that it comes with one of the clumsiest looking power chargers I've seen in a while. No one's going to want to have this in their computer bag or anything, but here's the secret good news, is that it charges via USB-C. So it is entirely functional for you to go and buy like a 66-watt power charger and a USB-C cable and use that instead, which is exactly what I've done. This has sat in the box because I really don't want to feel like I'm in a 1980s computer ad. So again, what Acer is doing with this is they're trying to minimize the cost of all the components so they can ship you a computer with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and a webcam and an enormous screen and an entirely functional keyboard at an incredibly low price, which means we need to talk about the price. But before we get to the price, I'm going to ask if you could subscribe to my channel. A click or a tap on that subscribe button on the lower right, I think it is. Click on it, tap on it, and then go ahead and turn on notifications. We're connected. Cool. Now, this is the Acer Chromebook 317, and it is $299, discounted down to $285, brand new, not a refurb, brand new at Amazon.com. If you need a second computer, if you have a teenager who is just really hard on devices, or if you just want to have a spare device sitting there so that you can watch TV in bed, or if you have someone who's getting better from being sick or something, imagine having this on a tray table on their bed. Fantastic. Such a good option. And there's so much to like about this, as long as you can accept that you're running Chrome OS and that this is designed just as much for affordability as it is designed for functionality. So with that, I think I'm going to go back to the ending of that movie from Amazon. Yeah, I watch a lot of old movies. I can't help it. So I'll have to catch you in my next video.